Is that it? Anything else? No, okay. Mr. Greeley?
Oh, I have to be next. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Actually, the Board of Selectmen will report on this for Article 12, but a question to you, Mr. Moderator, if I may. My assumption is if this 11 fails, 12 is moot, or should I ask that of my own town council?
It would be,
Okay. Therefore, may I give the Selectmen's report at this point?
if you wish. You have your 10 minutes.
Well, it's just related to Article 12, which is the Selectmen when this was first brought before us. Again, a magnificent presentation by Pam. Our position was send it back to the Board of Health to see if they could become comfortable with it. And Christine Sharkey, I don't know if you want to report on this, but the Board of Health did hold a hearing on this and still have recommended no at this point in time. The report of the Board of Selectmen is a vote of 3-2, so recommending no action on 12. But there are 2 dissenters. If the rest of my time, if either one of them would like to speak on, oh, Clarissa, welcome. Annie or Clarissa. Annie, okay. Personally, myself, the one issue is, without requiring that all neighbors have a vote on this, I don't agree with this. I feel every abutting neighbor should have to vote positively in favor of this as one thing. Plus, I want the Board of Health to say yes, and at this point they say no.
In regard to speaking of 11 and 12, I would suggest we have all our conversation now and not have a big conversation twice. I agree. Yes. Thank you.
Well, it's very gracious of Kevin to allow the dissent to speak. We try not to do that on the Board of Selectmen. But I think that I speak for myself and Clarissa when I say that our support for this article is basically that Pam has done a very thorough job of researching how this would work, and she's convinced us that it's safe and it can be neighborly. And the obvious concerns that everyone has about odor, noise, and pests and attracting predators, Pam seems to have answered very thoroughly. It is a little tough to go up against your Board of Health, but I think a year after this becomes possible and we have a few hen owners in town, the Board of Health will become convinced too, or I wouldn't get in their face, as it were. So I urge you to support both Articles 11 and 12 because I think it'll be a fine addition to the mix in the community. Thank you.
Mr. Ruderman, back right.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Michael Ruderman, Precinct 9. To admit that the first time I encountered a backyard poultry, I had no understanding of them. I was spending a couple of weeks out on the side, I think because my grandparents thought it would be good for me. And I came into breakfast first morning, and they said, how did you sleep? How are your accommodations? Except for those darn chickens that woke me up this morning at dawn. And I still feel the burning in my ears from the laughter around the table. Of course, chickens couldn't wake up anybody. It was the roosters. Chickens don't make any noise at all that you to hear outside of the coop. I would vote in favor of this. I believe we're dealing with some fears of the unknown, which are reasonable and which will be allayed in very short time with the successful passage and implementation of this bylaw. And I thank our guests for reminding us of our own town history. If you want to see the proof of Nathan Robinson's fortunes, there's his grand full-length classical portrait in the meeting room upstairs behind us, and it shows him surrounded by various forms of poultry. Most with their feathers on, but quite a few without, because what he did was the innovation of selling dressed poultry to the Boston market. You could call him the Tyson or the Purdue of his day. Really, it was a fabulous idea of bringing chickens to people that didn't want to pluck them themselves, and it created the fortune that gave us, among other things, this hall that we're sitting in. That's only a footnote. I hope that you will vote for 11 and 12 affirmatively because they're good ideas, and I think we'll be glad that we did. Thank you.
Thank you. If I may ask the 2 folks from Belmont to go up to the balcony. You're not supposed to be in the enclosure. And only town meeting members are supposed to be, so that's why I'm asking them to go upstairs. Next, Mr. McCabe. Mr. Horowitz.
Gary Horowitz, Precinct 18. I only had one concern about the chickens, and that was I was reading whatever it was. It had to do with all the inspections that had to be done. The Board of Health has to come, and someone has to inspect, and the checking, and this and that. And I was curious from the Board of Health, if that's going to put a strain on them. And they said yes. So that was my only concern. And I'm sorry, Mr. Moderator, I've had this question
No problem.
buzzing around in my head for a long time now, and if I don't get it out, I might explode. So here it is. If my unleashed chickens are caught smoking pot in an ice cream truck in the back of the building, not in the front, am I going to have a lien on my property? Thank you.
I get a chicken dinner. Mr. Carrero. You get fined and I get a dinner.
Rich Carrero, Precinct 19. A couple of things. Well, first, I'm curious as to on what grounds the Arlington Board of Health came to such different conclusions than our neighboring boards of health, such as Lexington and Belmont.
Sharkley? Get it right this time? Sharky, Jesus.
Christine Sharkey, Director of Health and Human Services. The Board of Health here in Arlington met twice on this issue, both times citing density and population and housing density as an issue in Arlington as compared to Lexington, Winchester, Brookline, Newton, and some other communities.
Oh, I don't think they could hear you. We weren't speaking directly into the mic.
Okay.
Whoever's beeping like that, can you turn your cell phone off?
The Board of Health met 2 times on this issue, both times citing a few issues. The main, in comparison with other communities, is the density, both housing density and population density, as compared to Lexington and Winchester, Brookline, and Newton, and Belmont.
Thank you.
The area, this is through the moderator, I'm just curious, the areas in some of these surrounding towns that have the chickens, are they just, wide open areas, or are these chickens doing okay in fairly dense areas of some of these other towns? I don't know who would answer that, but that's my question.
Well, perhaps when Ms. Calloway gets her second time, she can answer that question.
Oh, she can't answer it now?
Well,
That's interesting. Okay.
a real quick answer. It's almost giving her a third time at the bat. But go ahead and give him a real
Just
quick answer.
quick
The
factual
densities of the
answer
other
is all I
towns,
want.
these chickens are the same as, say, our densest part of town, East Arlington.
Pam Calloway, Precinct 5. It does vary. Some of the lots that I saw were larger, maybe quarter of an acre, but there were some that I saw that were much smaller, much closer to 1/8 of an acre, which I think is what we have in Arlington. And they had enclosures for them, and they were just careful about how they kept them. So I think...
Nope. Yeah, answer the question.
Okay.
You're going to get a second time. You're on the list.
I'd also say, of course, keep in mind the setbacks they're talking about. So 6 feet in the backyard, so it's got to be behind your house, 6 feet from any property line, and 25 feet from the closest residence. So that means probably a lot of the densest parts of town, I'd be surprised if you could even have them at all. So I am less concerned about the density argument. I give it less credence. Finally, another question is, if the zoning part were to pass, but the bylaw didn't, I assume that would mean that there would still be no chickens. Is that correct?
Ms. Rice?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Juliana Rice, Town Council. Because of the redevelopment board's motion or substitute motion that inserts the permitting requirement, that is correct. The Board of Health could choose to permit them, but wouldn't be required to because the bylaw would not require it.
Okay, well, thank you. I personally am in favor of both. I plan to vote for both the zoning change and the substitute motion I'm sure is going to be coming. But I'd also say that if nothing else, please do vote for the zoning bylaw change. As you just heard, if the zoning change passes and the bylaw change does not, there will still be no chickens. But at least this way, the zoning change would be in the books so that if the Board of Health changed its mind in the future to be that much less, we'd have to go through again. Thank you.